Hello and welcome. We are going to talk about everything that is going on social media right now because it's absolutely unbelievable. A lot of people are talking about what is happening um, from a political angle, and we'll get to that. But I really want to talk about it from a social media strategy end. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to click on this link to go live on Instagram, which I've actually never been able to do before concurrent to StreamYard. So that's pretty exciting, I have to tell you. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is make sure that I can see my comments. There we go, because I want to make sure that if you have any questions, I can answer them. So, first of all, am I surprised in any way, shape, or form by anything that has happened at TikTok over the last 24 hours? I absolutely am not. The only thing that has surprised me about everything with the TikTok ban in the last maybe week was when the Biden administration said that they wouldn't go through and enforce it. And that I thought was super smart, actually, because I think those of us who've been paying attention to the broader communications, PR, political conversation have been aware of everything that's happening right now, that the TikTok ban would happen. And then there would be this narrative that President Trump came in and saved um, TikTok for small businesses and for creators because there would be a real tangible impact that people who had real fear around how are they going to replace that income or replace that marketing stream, that President Trump would take tangible actions that would save them. What's really strange, again, and a lot of people are talking about this, so we're going to spend much more time on the social media strategy end of it all. What's really strange is that the Biden administration said that they weren't going to enforce it, but then TikTok, putting those messages up that were clearly pre-planned, that said TikTok has been banned in the United States, but we'll be working with President Trump. And then because of President Trump, we're able to restore TikTok. So again, we can get to that at the end of the conversation if that's something that we kind of mutually decide we want to talk about. But I want to talk about social media strategy first because a few really interesting things have happened, even in this sort of 14-hour window and in the days leading up to it. So, a lot of social media strategists were telling their audience, were telling their community, create on Instagram Reels or create on YouTube, right? This is the solution. And I think that what a lot of creators and small businesses were coming to find that actually kind of surprised them a bit is the fact that their TikTok content, whatever their TikTok approach was not something that they could just copy paste and redistribute and see the same results. And so the biggest thing that I've really been thinking about, whether it's for myself, whether it's for my clients moving forward, the thing to really articulate is the fact that, right, we know that each platform on social media has a different culture, has a different feel. One of the things that I did leading up to this time is I spent more time on Reels than I have in some time. And I don't think that I realized how different in spirit the feel of Instagram Reels has become. I don't think that I realized that. I think, in credit to Risa Tisa, who really changed the nature of TikTok and made people feel more comfortable in these kind of longer, more in-depth, more personal stories, right? Credit to an Alex Earl who made the Get Ready With Me popular. If I was someone in beauty, there's no way that I would replicate the same Get Ready With Me style on Instagram, right? On TikTok, people want to hear your life story while you're putting your makeup on. And on Instagram Reels, it's like just the transition with some music behind it and like a 3-note text overlay moment that's like, find my 5 favorite products in the caption. Like Instagram Reels, when you look at what's really tracking in the metrics right now, it's these check the caption, check the caption. It's not really people like sitting and articulating their thoughts to you. And so you have this moment where you kind of decide what almost like your top line priority is. It's that I see that Roz just popped in. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't work on Instagram. So you have to decide whether your top line priority is that like your brand is just going to look and feel and be your brand on every platform, or if your goal is growth and that you're going to kind of like shift your social accordingly. So for example, me, like I'm me on every platform. So that's why I actually planned this morning before TikTok came back online. And I was like, okay, what is the avenue for me to have the opportunity to sit down and do the 10-minute video that I would do on TikTok, where I'm like, hey, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the political end. Let's talk about the social strategy end. Let's talk about what everyone's talking about. Let's talk about what no one's talking about. Oh, I'll go live. Hey, Emily, that's what I would do so that I have the opportunity to like really talk through things. Conversely, if I was like, I want to grow on Instagram as fast as humanly possible, I would do like the snappiest, sharpest video that would be like a quick, like, how to make your TikTok succeed on Instagram, tips and caption, right? So you decide, like, do you want to be you on every platform and then prioritize as your platform ones the platforms and the styles on that platform where you can create the kind of content that you really enjoy creating, or are you just looking to, all right, what's going to be like the growth moment on this platform? So again, for me, hypothetically, if this TikTok ban had actually been a ban, I would have thought about relaunching my podcast. I would have thought about more lives like this that's omnichannel. Right now, I'm live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. I would have thought like, what are the mediums that I need to be on to really kind of showcase what I built community around, what I built community around on Clubhouse, and then what I built community around on TikTok. And again, that sort of experience before of really growing a voice and a platform and then leaving that platform and doing it again um, gave me that base of experience of sort of how do you reinvent yourself in a way that still, I think that you have to enjoy creating the content for it to be good. So that's one thing that I think is super interesting. Emily, I would read that comment, but I think it might come off a little interesting on the other lives. But I do think it's great to have an omnichannel presence. The next thing that I really wanted to talk about to this point of being on multiple platforms at once, what it means is that, I think that we're seeing this moment. As I was saying, a lot of people were saying that they were really sad to be leaving TikTok, like that they miss sort of that feeling. And so, one thing that I think is a really interesting thing to think about wherever you're creating content, I always talk about the fact that social is community. And so the fact that like we can look at the feedback looping that we were seeing that people were doing in this like really condensed, really almost like pressure cooker of a 14 hours, like what were the things that people were saying that they were going to be missing and know, oh, these are the touch points that people are really craving on social media. Like that's actually an incredible data point of what are people craving and what feels authentic, what feels like community. I feel like so often both brands and people are like, how can I lean in and get the data points of what are the pieces of content that people want? We also saw a lot of advice over the past few weeks that like I don't think was great advice. So first of all, I'm one of the only people who I'm aware of who's so heavy into TikTok who did not make any content at all for my clients or my community about what to do when TikTok goes away. And candidly, that's because I was paying close enough attention that I knew all this was going to happen. And whenever anyone asked me, I was like, it's not. And if it does, it's going to be only for a moment before Trump saves it. Like the ham rating has been on the wall. None of this is surprising whatsoever. But the other thing is that I think that, there are some through lines that just make sense, right? When people say, you want to have an omni-channel strategy, you never want all of your eggs in one basket, you never want to be all on one platform. Well, that's true. But as I touched on a little bit at the beginning of the video, I think that there was some advice to like just take your videos over to YouTube or like just take your videos over to Instagram or just take your videos over to LinkedIn. And I don't think that that was the most salient strategy. I think that that had some people kind of like running around with the chicken with their head cut off. But again, what I do think you can do is if you have an interest in building on these platforms, the first is you can spend a little bit of time on them and see like, is there one that I'm actually enjoying? And then the second thing that you can do is think about how do you take your content and basically like make it make sense over there. So like I gave the example of the fact that I'm doing a live right now. Another thing that I'm going to do is like I have transcription software. So when this is done, I'm going to run it through my transcription software and I'm going to see like, okay, what pieces of this do I want to pull out and crop into a newsletter for a LinkedIn newsletter for my email list? Do I want to cut this down into a short video that I would put somewhere? Because TikTok is back in all its glory, I'm going to go do a postmortem on TikTok after this because I'm sure I could also have a TikTok live right there, but that to me just felt like a bridge too far when I haven't done lives like this in over a year. So I'm so grateful to every single one of you who is joining me right now. But I think that there's just an opportunity to like really think about what you learned in the last 12 or 14 hours, like what platforms you gravitated towards, what formats you found particularly interesting, and everything like that to sort of think about what is the omnichannel strategy going to be moving forward. Um, the other thing that comes up for me that I would be remiss not to talk about is that whenever something sort of like jumps to the top of popular consciousness that like this is the thing that everyone's talking about, it knocks a bunch of other stuff down, right? So like, and there's nothing that I found that people love more on a platform than talking about that platform. Like it was one of the things that we used to see on Clubhouse all the time is that the number of rooms on Clubhouse talking about Clubhouse were just endless. And the same thing's going to happen on TikTok. Just like when TikTok grew to a 3-minute video and a 10-minute video. I mean, I know that my entire FYP is going to be talking about what's going on TikTok. But as I said, when we think about the fact that online is real life and real life is online, I would be remiss not to mention that there are going to be a lot of videos of people talking about what it has felt like over the last 14 hours to think that their community could be washed away, to think that their hard work over the past several years could be washed away, to think about the fact that their income could be washed away. And I'd be remiss not to mention that this actually just happened to an enormous number of people who are living in the LA area and who actually had their hard work, their income stream, their community, their businesses, their plans, um, go up in smoke and not get reinstated a moment later. So I think it's going to be really important that as like sort of the coverage of TikTok on TikTok is just everyone sort of talking about this ban, talking about, oh, I predicted it. Oh, I didn't predict it. Oh, I saw this coming. I think keeping our eyes also on sort of the bigger picture of, okay, so everyone who is really upset about TikTok going away, that's been reinstated. What are the things that have happened or are happening or are going to happen that haven't been reinstated? And then the final point I'll make on this live, and I mentioned it a bit at the beginning, and I said that I would come back to it a bit at the end. The actual sort of the actual language in each of the announcement statements, talking about what was happening and thanking President Trump. I will say that, they were surprising, right? These mass notifications that popped up on everyone's phones, and one of the things that came up for me is, whenever you're, like, using an online product or service and it, like, goes offline for 12 hours, 14 hours a day, for updates, I have to be honest that I'm like, "What mass backend updates could have been achieved while the front end, experience was on pause for 12 or 14 hours. And then it just came back with this sort of epic thank you to President Trump for making TikTok possible. So it's definitely a stay tuned moment. It's definitely again like the name of this was like TikTok ban, lights out Meta. I didn't really talk about lights out Meta because listen, like um I think that it's interesting. I mean, I know that Mark Zuckerberg is trying to be very relevant right now with the makeover. But like to give you a perfect example, and we'll kind of end on this note. I mean, I feel like Meta's always looking for its car keys because, and I could be wrong. It could be a lot of people are saying that like secretly Mark Zuckerberg purchased TikTok or ByteDance, whatever the case may be, and maybe there is some sort of unholy marriage that went on there. But what comes up for me is this. So, I was scrolling on Instagram like maybe an hour ago, and I saw a post from their like creators, the official Instagram creators page. And what it said was that it was like amazing news. We're working on a video editing app that we're going to launch in the coming weeks. And here's the thing, like, we've known the date of this potential TikTok ban for months. And we've known that not only would TikTok be banned, but everything by ByteDance, including CapCut, which means that for the last 14 hours or for the duration of the 14-hour ban, not only did you have creators wondering, like, oh my God, should I be going to Instagram? And candidly, Instagram did not roll out the red carpet, which I think is surprising and interesting. But you also had all of these people who are heavy, heavy into video editing who are wondering, what am I going to do as my replacement to CapCut? I actually saw a post on LinkedIn that were like, here are 9 options as alternatives to CapCut. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to bookmark every single one of these. And so Instagram had this huge opportunity, not only for creators, but also for video editors. If they had had their video editing app ready to deploy, like imagine if they'd deployed a fantastic video editing app like a week ago. And in the 14 hours, everyone was kind of like, what are we doing? Where are we going? We don't have CapCut. Everyone went and tried it, just like how everyone went and tried RedNote over the last week. But the fact that they would put an announcement back after CapCut is restored that they're going to work on a competitor it's pretty funny, for lack of a better word. So, if you join me today, thank you. If you would like to see more of these, let me know. And yeah, I will see you all on TikTok.